have been very busy this morning, too busy to make and eat my breakfast. I just came to you guys from a phone call with Senator Cornyn. It is the virtual advocacy and action Hill Day for the National Association of Alcoholism and Drug Abuse Counselors. I've been doing this for 20 years, and this is the first time I actually didn't have to spend money to go there, rent a room, all of that kind of stuff. So it was a pretty interesting deal. And I got a call, this a virtual meeting this afternoon with one of the representatives from Texas. So it's pretty interesting stuff. I will tell you that what is really relevant to what we do in a direct way. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but if not, you should know that the peer recovery movement was after the peer recovery work that was accomplished by alternative peer group programs all the way back in the 70s. And a big part of what's getting pushed in this advocacy thing, it has to do with peer recovery. So just thought you'd be interested in that. We always are looking for ways to support the kinds of things we do. So anybody got anything today they want to open up with? A question, anything, a burning issue, something, oh, I got to talk about this right now. Kate said, just shut up. Anybody? God darn, I don't get to eat a bite of my taco. All right. Well, Hannah last week brought us our topic for this week. And it's kind of about meetings. You know, how do we do meetings? What are the processes? What are some of the different things? And I sent y'all all some email, and I sent you a Rip, the guy who runs the adult APG meeting here, oddly enough, had nothing to do with what we're getting ready to do, but he had just made a copy of made a list of his process for opening the meeting, what he wishes to accomplish. Of course, it changes from week to week. And I shared that in an email, but I also have it here on, oh, look at me, I'm such a big boy. Can y'all see this? Not yet. Can you? You can. Oh, look at me, I'm so excited. All right. So this is an outline of what he does, and I thought we'd just use it kind of as stepping stone to talk about what you guys are doing, because I want to hear what y'all are doing also. This is not just, you know, everybody is. How many of y'all are running meetings right now? If you'll just kind of raise your hand. 1, 2, I can't see everyone for some reason. Let's see. Okay. Well, I would like to ask you guys also to share, you know, what you do after we run through this, and why, and sort of what has worked and what hasn't worked. Just looking at, it's not that I mind. I don't want to bore y'all with sitting and reading this thing, okay, out loud to you. So I'm going to go through it, and if something hits me and I think it might need a comment, I'll make that. Maybe it might be important for some of you to define steering committee. Steering committee is made up of, it's voluntary. There's one of the groups is practicing with paying them. I think it's you guys, James and Michelle, and y'all have to give us a little report. Steering committee members are people usually coming out of the group or the history of the group that leader asks to take part in leadership position. It is also an element that can be used for growth. In the case of this program here, one of the guys who the last thing he needs to do to qualify for discharge is find a way to give back regularly, you know, something that he's fairly committed to, that he gives back regularly to something. And steering committee is available to him and easy, and he could do that. And it's what it is helping, you know, with the group, helping build the group, helping create the, you know, create and support for building relationships within the group, et cetera, as well as maybe some clerical and, administrative stuff. But this young man that we're talking about, it is the last thing he needs to do to qualify for what we call discharge or awakening. And he's having a lot of trouble doing that. He got a girlfriend, hello, now nothing else exists in his world, and it's very difficult for him to do that. In his case, we're actually using steering committee to kind of to help him break on through the other side of, getting fully rounded and being able to expand. One of the byproducts a lot of times of this disease is compulsive impulsiveness or impulsive compulsiveness, one of the ways or one of the two. And with the new relationship, he's just, that's all he can focus on, which I have no idea what that feels like, but he does. And so that's where he's at, and trying to pull him over and remind him of his, responsibilities and let him take part in that will give him some extra depth to the recovery side of the psychological side of this disease. So he's steering committee. So senior counselor will meet with that steering committee and discusses, and you can read these things here, group dynamics, and that's basically he'll talk to them about, hey, I know that this person is having trouble with their family right now, and I know you went through something similar. If you find a chance, maybe reach out to them, that kind of thing, and providing some support for specific situations. Everything I'm saying, by the way, this pre-meeting occurs with the group, the people who are trying to, move into recovery, and it also occurs with the family element in the alternative peer group program. Significant recent events we brought up. Let's see. Settle on a topic. One comment to that. When you get to be a bigger program, let's say you're having 30 people come, it's a real good idea to split up into 3 groups, 3 different meetings. Instead of just one with 30, you split up in 3 with 10, that kind of thing. Also, if you get up like that size, you may have 3 or 4 different things that are going on in a predominant basis with different people in the group, and you might want to create 3 different topics. Then you might want to use your steering committee to lead certain people to certain topics, because with 30 people, you may have, an easy 4 or 5 different pretty common issues going on at the moment with different ones in the group. And you may really hope that they have a chance to share and listen to others about their specific things. So instead of everybody having to be in one topic, you can separate it up. If you're going to do that, you have to have a leader for each one of those meetings. Your steering committee, you can organize that and decide kind of how you want to do that. He right now, this last one, he right now is working on this, really trying to reach out on this social basis, and they have certain commitments to reach out to each person or different group members. He'll go over that with them. Then open the meeting. He reads the preamble. The preamble is, I'm assuming you know what it is. If not, in a second, you can say, I don't know what that is. Put a little check mark or something on it. Preamble is basically something that's read every time. It's what gets everybody in the mood for, here we go, we're about to do the meeting. Lifeway developed theirs in a 3-day retreat, built a whole retreat for the staff, and we developed the preamble that was read at that retreat. So it became also a process. In his meeting, he'll read 12 steps and the 12 promises. That doesn't always occur. Some people do different things, and there's different versions of steps out there. And you could even do some work on streamlining the steps specifically for the group you're in charge with. If you want to use steps, you may also move to some of the elements and some of the other approaches, those kind of things. Just depends on how it feels to the group and how it applies. And somebody introduces it, left something out here. Everybody know what it is, something that needs to happen at the beginning of the meeting. Wait a minute, let me go to where I can open to see all of you guys. Oh, come on. Anybody know what he left out? Something that you should do at the beginning of every meeting. James.
Tell a joke.
Yeah, whoopee! Or talk about a sandwich. That's another something goofy and fun. You know, if it ain't fun, and especially if you're, well, it doesn't make any difference what age group. If it ain't fun, they ain't coming. I'm telling you, you know. Parents, same thing. Families, doesn't make, you got to make it fun. And let me tell you, that is not always easy. It is not easy. One of the issues that we're dealing with right now is you have to kind of pick somebody that, this is where talent-based hiring and talent-based choosing for your steering committee comes from. You want to pick people who naturally, at least some of your people on your steering committee are fun dogs. They just are fun, funny people. You need to do that. If you're limited on how many people you can put on your steering committee, it really stresses the ability. So in a new program, it's doubly important that the staff member be in there and fill the gap for whatever can't be filled because you don't have enough people to put on the steering committee to do that. So then running the meeting, usually, you know, somebody will, you know, introduce the topic and then call on, notice it says they call on next person to share. That can happen. If you want to, you can ask if somebody feels, you know, like they're ready right away to share, and sometimes that'll happen. If they don't, then that's usually counted as kind of a sign from God that you're supposed to call on someone instead of they want to jump out with them. Everyone's shared. There's still time on the clock. Allow for additional comments on anyone's shooting the breeze. That's okay. If time runs out, close the meeting. Okay. Back to this scenario where everybody split up into 3 meetings. I've had groups as big where there were 8 meetings, by the way, different meetings. The meeting time is over. In those cases, they all return back to the big group, and that's when you do close the meeting. And those announcements, hangouts, get together functions. Right now, it's all virtual still with Lifeway, and they're working hard and heavy at trying to figure out things. Two of the things they're working on, one of them is producing, this is in the group, not in the family group, but in the group, they're working on, several of them can sing, play the guitar, you know, those kind of things. They're working on virtually putting together some sort of a musical number, you know. Another thing is they're talking about doing some games, different games, and those kind of things. Group challenge, that's something that's unique to what he's doing right now. Group challenge, you could make it something that's regular, but right now it's a unique thing. He's doing it for unity and that kind of stuff. Talks about next week's meeting. Oh, also they'll touch on birthdays and serenity prayer, and there's something that's left out here, and it's mainly because this is such a small group. You want to set up some sort of goals, okay, for families and for the people who are using that are in. And what I mean by that is, oh well, I've got something here. I'll show you. Lifeway has used different things at different times, but y'all see this leather bracelet? If you could see it, you would say it says Lifeway. It's gotten so old and crusty you can't read anything, but I know what it says. It says Lifeway on it. And the brown bracelet in the past has been used when somebody accomplished 30 days. They would get this bracelet, and there was a ceremony to give the bracelet out. And in that ceremony for 30 days, 3 different people would talk for them, and talking about things that grow up around traditions that grow up around. You'll have a lot of traditions that can grow up and be encouraged around these presentations, and that should be done at the end of the meeting. At the close of the meeting, that needs to be put in there. And then they close with this group closes with the Serenity Prayer. Notice that he goes on, and the way this is organized, there's an LCDC or an LMSW, LPC, case manager that's looking over this. Could be considered basically because it's staffed in a supportive outpatient group. So recapping the meeting with the case manager, he'll do that. And then in between meetings, he will do an e-blast reminder, and he'll do new and different sober media, send out a YouTube, all sorts of different stuff that Rip does. Rip does a real good job of looking after this. He's very, very responsible about it. I always get something in between meetings. I always get immediate first thing this morning. In fact, last night he sent the recap, and all of those kind of things. Right now we're doing some special things. In fact, Robin is involved in that, helping some with family meeting, because it's very difficult to get family members right now. They're very, very rough. So that is that template. I would love to hear somebody, and you're welcome to it. I asked Rip if he minded if I shared it. He said not at all. He said he would be honored. So you can take it if you want to and do whatever you want to with it. I would love to hear some of the things that some of the rest of you are doing, or any questions about this one. And I want to take a bite of my thing.
John, can you stop sharing your screen so we can see each other, or it might just be me? I don't know.
Okay, let me do that. I am so technically adept. Oh, man.
Can I ask one question? Just thinking about everything that needs to happen over the course of a meeting, and I think this is one of the things that Hannah has struggled with, is how long are folks meeting? Are your typical meetings about 1 hour, an hour and a half, 2 hours?
This, when it's small like this, about an hour, okay? But remember the thing about the at the closing doing the in PDAP, they gave out things called fists. In Lifeway, they give out the bracelets. All right, Lifeway used to give out medallions, and the reason why these things change, just as a side note, the reason why these things change is different types of jewelry become more popular at different times than others. All right. At the time that PDAP selected the fist, it was a leather thing that hung around your neck, and it was a knot called a fist, and it's a sailor's knot, and they use it to throw a rope, and it symbolized first contact with solid ground. All right. That was because it was in the 70s. It was very hippie-ish. It was cool. It looked cool. It matched what the fashion thing was. Later on, when Lifeway switched to these, it was more in that line. In between was a time when Lifeway used a medallion, which was actually a metal thing. There's a little circle about like that with, and it was cool. And there were different, and they would do 2 of them basically. One was for 30 days, and that's this brown one, and then another one for a year, and it's different. It's more spoofy. So. The question, is if when you're doing that kind of thing, then it's going to expand it up to an hour and a half. All right. And if you get a big group, listen, it can get up to 2 hours. If you have a year award and 30 days, that takes some time to do that, because that's 3 groups of 3 talking about 3 people. And then for the year, we usually let 5 people talk. for the person before it was presented. So you got to keep that in mind. A lot of times what we would do is we would, if we had a big bunch that were at the end that was going to stretch it too far time-wise, we would kind of space it and move them the next week, et cetera, to do that. Answer the question a little bit?
John,
Yeah.
was this just about the steering committee?
Mhm.
So it's not about the alternative peer groups themselves?
Mhm.
Okay, because I think that that was what I was curious about in terms of like running the alternative peer groups themselves. What's the normal time frame for those?
Oh, no, that's what I was speaking to. No, it's an
Okay,
hour.
not
It's
just the steering.
usually around an hour, and especially when we're doing these
Oh, celebrations. Okay.
the virtual things. But the celebrations will push it past that up to an hour and a half. I try and keep it less than at an hour and a half. We tried not to go over an hour and a half, because when it's a normal time and you can have coffee after the meeting and you're face to face and all those kind of things, you want to leave some time in that so people can still get home, at 10:30 or so.
Okay.
So John,
Hi, guys. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
No, you should go ahead.
Go ahead.
all right. So here in Seattle, we're with the parents group, we're at about an hour and 10 minutes. We don't have a steering committee for the parents group, but it is coming along really well, and it's getting stronger, and we have some consistency finally, and we're averaging between 4 and 9 to 10 sets of parents, or a parent. And so, yeah, and our teen group is averaging between 17 and 24, and we only meet on Wednesdays so far. And we're almost ready to have a steering committee, or as we're calling it, what are we calling it, Michelle?
Oh, the Youth Advisory Board.
Youth Advisory Board is what we're calling it. And in that Youth Advisory Board, we have we'll have a couple of seniors from the Recovery High School, and then we'll have like 2 seniors representing the seniors, and then we'll have some older, like below 21 kids or adolescents or whatever, young adults helping with the advisory board. And then we have 2 adults on the advisory board as well that are board members with that group, and they help plan activities, and they feel the pulse, they have the pulse on the group and everything. But when it comes to the parent group, the only thing we do right now is read a identity statement, or a preamble. Thank you. Preamble. And we don't really open or close with anything except a great joke, which Robin has been privy to. She was amazed at my joke telling skills. She says I'm better than you. And then
Wait, whoa.
Well, I need to keep going. I'll lose my train of thought. No. Okay, so she didn't say that. I got to run an honest program here. So, and then the youth group, we're running it basically as a 12-step meeting format, mimicking AA or NA, however you want to put it. But we are adopting the, those 12 steps.
Oh, it's the APG approved by AA alteration to the 12 steps that removes God. It turns out our parents have even more of a problem with the God word than I thought they did.
Yeah.
So that's about how our groups have run. We're doing a lot of activities. This past weekend we did movie night, outdoor movie night. We set up a movie screen with the teens. We had about 7-8 teens show up, and then the parents had a fire pit out in front, and we all met around with social distance and sat around the fire. So that was pretty cool. And we've done trips, ferry rides to Bainbridge and stuff. So yeah, we're up and
That's
going.
so exciting. I love hearing it. Y'all don't know what that does for my heart to hear these kind of things. That's so cool.
I have more to add.
Joe?
So some of the feedback we got from the parents was once a week wasn't enough. And so we've identified a space that could be dedicated to us. And thanks to COVID, it's a month to month. So if it doesn't work out, we're not financially bound for a year or more. So we are going to start that at the end of October, and we're going to kick it off with an open house, and Robin's going to be there to join us, because we're looking to have Robin come to Seattle and run our parent program. So yay.
Real quick, that's way cool. Again, like I said, that just thrills me to hear these kind of things. One thing that I was thinking about while you were talking is the same kind of, and this will help you economically too, same kind of representation, the way you've organized your leadership and bringing some people in for the younger group, the adolescents, where you know that kind of appointing authority and those kind of things. Do that for your family group also, and it'll strengthen your parent group. Those same things that are bringing all of that unity and direction and responsibility, feeling of responsibility. And oddly enough, how are y'all financed? Are y'all nonprofit?
Well, first, let me speak to what you just said. One of the things that I'm finding that's happening is there's a lot of magic in this process. And for the young people, what's happened is we're allowing kids, young persons up to the age of 21. So we have some graduates from the Recovery High School who are joining us. And one in particular has really stepped up. He's at every meeting. He helps organize the younger kids. And in opening this new space, we need someone who can hold the space open, who can physically open it, who can kind of manage things. And so he's come to light as being the natural person to ask to do this. What we haven't had is that on the adult side. We haven't seen the natural person to ask to step up and lead the group. So we're kind of just waiting until that happens. But as for how we're set up, we have done a for-profit for the operations and a nonprofit for funding. So the idea is that there's a fee for service, and then in the mission to never turn a family away for inability to pay, we have the nonprofit set up to bridge the gap between what a family can afford to pay and how much it actually costs. Okay. So, and we've been working with Hannah at Keystone has given us a couple of great resources. One was a website where a family could go and put their numbers in, so we never have to see how much they make. And that system will pop out how much they should pay and how much should be subsidized.
Right. The reason why I asked that is in developing your parent leadership and unity and all, remember your nonprofit element, because they can also take places there, and it works pretty well for them, especially graduates. All right, family graduates. So it was just a thought. Also, your new meeting, if you're careful, I mean, I know it sounds like you've already found a place, but what I was going to say is really what you're doing right now is opening new meetings partly into new locations and new communities served. Yep. You know what I'm saying? If you will kind of play that out, you'll be able to reach people that you weren't able to reach before. And a lot of times will develop into a full-blown center. In a center, there's individual counseling, there's group counseling, you can have IOP, you can, I've talked about programs and how they can develop into, they offer a lot of clinical elements in addition to the groups. The facilities for that can develop real easily out of a new meeting. I just thought
yeah, we've already identified the need of possibly bringing on a part-time substance use professional.
Yeah, we already see the need for case management, because we're already getting the teens who are in that in between. They have 1 foot in sobriety and 1 foot out. Right. And thinking about how best to capture those, it feels like a case manager who can sit the family down, someone who's like tracking the progress. Yeah. So we don't just become a shit show of teens using.
You don't want that problem. We've seen that too, and it is a problem. Yeah, it becomes a place to get laid and loaded, and instead of a place to get to recovery, and you know that, and that makes a lot of difference. Other questions? I think, Heidi, did you want to say something? Did I see something?
So Kaylin and I were both asking Michelle if she could share the website for the sliding scale fee, but I think Kaylin also had something to add.
Thank you, Heidi. I was gonna not raise my hand again. But how's everybody doing? It's been a long time since I've checked into this group. So I kind of want to just celebrate with the group as well. We were credentialed recently to open up IOP and OP services. We are in the process of being Medicaid paneled. We are being supported by state funding until that happens, which is a godsend. And so they're going to bridge the gap between the financial part of that. We start hopefully November 1st will be our first IOP group. So we're very excited on that. So I just wanted to celebrate that with the group. And then one of the things that I wanted to just reach out for some advice or just see what everybody else is doing or if they're experiencing the same thing. Obviously our numbers at APG are extremely low. We are supporting distance learning right now. So that's kept our numbers up where rather than doing our normal programming that we usually have, we are doing, like I said, distance learning from 7:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then from 2, they have a little bit of a break. And then from 3 to about 5:30, 6 o'clock is our normal APG programming. So the fun stuff, right? The recovery meetings and stuff, but we're experiencing a little bit of burnout because they're here all day already. And so when it gets to the recovery part of, the process to jump into a meeting or, because they've been here all day, they're just, nobody really wants to talk. Nobody really wants to engage. I mean, our recovery meetings are like, running 35 minutes, if that. And so I noticed you were talking about, bringing up some different topics or encouraging them to continue talking, with the remainder of the meeting time. And so I don't know, I'm just looking for some things. I mean, I know it's about, the motivational interviewing kind of, and, having open-ended questions and that kind of stuff. But I'm really just looking for some feedback is, to try to keep them engaged in the meetings, I guess. That's what was calling on me.
Time are your meetings?
Our meetings are from 3 to 4 every day, and we have a hybrid kind of model going on. So most of our kids that are not allowed to come because parents aren't letting their kids out of the house, we have the live meeting going on here at APG, and then they can also join via Zoom. So we have like the room is on video to where all the kids can engage and feel like they're here. But even with that element, I mean, they're sharing normally pre-COVID, they're super engaged, sharing for like, 5 to 10 minutes each. I mean, we're almost having to like shut them down. And then now it's just like pulling teeth.
Yeah. No, the reason why I asked that is you might want to move your meeting to an evening time, 6:30 to 7:30, something like that. Give them a break. And let them, that's the first thing it sounded like that it was a deal where, because having schools, we've had schools too, and we've had meetings at the end of the day, and they're hard. They're kind of, because they've been there all day. If they're in person, it's a little bit better, even then, but we've never really had any trouble with having them come back because they're usually sitting around with nothing to do. And the idea of going to a meeting and getting around to the people, they like it by that time. They've been with them all day, they don't appreciate it. Then the evening comes along and they're stuck. So that's an idea. Anybody got anything else real quick?
Hey, Kaylin, what we've already started doing with our teams is that we have like at least once a month we go somewhere else. Like just last week, we did Bainbridge Island. They took the kids on a ferry and they went and they had a meeting on the beach. Instead of like keeping it in because the kids have already said the setting already kind of feels like school-like for them. And then like in 2 weeks, we're going to a pumpkin patch, and we're going to do a meeting before they get to go out into the pumpkin patch. Do their recovery support meeting before they go into the pumpkin patch. So, you know, just switching it up as much as possible keeps them engaged and keeps them wondering what we're going to do next. We have other plans already set out, but I know that you have kids on Zoom, but maybe hopefully the parents see if you're doing outdoor meetings where there's social distancing is able to happen. Maybe those kids can show up to that and at least be part of the in-person. And, you know, and if the parents come and witness that, hey, they're social distancing, it might be okay for them to be in the outside meetings instead of, you know, the indoor one. Just a thought.
Enlist the kids in solving this issue. Get
Yeah,
their
we did.
ideas.
That's what we did, is we had the kids come up with things.
Yeah, and they will come up with some answers. Tell me about, in your celebration, tell me about your client base. So how many people do you have that will fall into the Medicaid area?
So I'm going to imagine most everyone that we're going to service is going to be Medicaid. I mean, that's really our biggest problem here in Las Vegas is, you know, the lower socioeconomical, you know, need for treatment, right? So, and then we have one treatment center out here in Las Vegas, and it's self-pay, insurance-based. It's like $8,000 a month.
That's cheap.
The other side, right? So the other side of that is, you know, most of the Medicaid will support 10 sessions in intensive outpatient, and
right.
that is the scale.
Yeah, I hear you.
Nothing in between that.
Get in touch with George Youngblood here, because they have been working in those socioeconomic areas for a while. They're doing it through a contract with the public school system here in Houston, but he'll have some ideas and thoughts and things they've done and how to solve some special issues like travel, and also there's some special issues that come with the populations, as you well know, I'm sure, that you're working with, but they have had, they got years of experience doing it with it, so you might want to tag him on that.
So I will reach out to him. We're in touch with Lyft. So that was something that we recently got set up. Lyft has a nonprofit kind of ride share donation gift thing that they'll do. I can't think of the language. I feel like I'm brain dead. I can't talk today, but if you apply for their grant, I think it's up to like $5,000 or $7,000 a year that they'll give you in free Lyft credits.
Awesome.
So we've established that to help with our youth to get from point A to point B. We also received a grant from our local RTC, our bus system. So they've supplied us with 1,500 bus passes.
Awesome.
Over the so we're setting up some, because transportation is our largest barrier for anything, like and especially that's our main problem, is getting kids here. Kids are always like, I don't have a ride. Mom and dad are working, you know, 6 and 7 days a week. You know, that's one of our main issues. So we're starting to kind of get through that, and it's getting easier the more work we put into it.
Well,
so
maybe you can share some things with him too. You probably have found some answers. That's why I like this, is being able to share some things and what's worked and what's not, that kind of thing.
Caitlin, I had a quick question. With the Lyft thing, how do you deal with, you know, them transporting, I guess, minors?
That was definitely something that was brought up. And so what we did was, there's actually we have a waiver. So the only way that they can be transported is if mom and dad sign a waiver releasing, and the waiver even states, like, you know, any sort of ride share situation is going to be super dangerous, and you need to be aware of your surroundings. You need to be aware of what's happening, what your driver is, all those things. So the responsibility is really in their hands. But we figured, like, that, you know, the worser of the two evils, right? Like, them not having any support or meetings, or, you know, peer groups and them being at home alone or having the ability to go use, or we're going to take the chance of, you know, getting them into a ride share, getting them from point A to point B. Plus, we actually do the dispatching. So we can see from the time they leave till they get here, if they're in the car, we don't allow them to do the ride, right? So we're not giving them the opportunity to make any stops or change their mind or anything like that.
And again, one side note there, make sure that you have insurance.
Yes, and we
Protect
do
you
have
if stuff
insurance.
happens, yeah.
Yeah,
Make
we
sure
do
you
have insurance.
guys.
Yes.
Not that expensive, and it can really be important to you. Okay.
Kaylin, is your family group meeting at the same time, or are they separate?
So we started doing family group on Mondays and Saturdays. We started doing that, and we were getting zero participation. Zero, like not one parent was showing up. So
Is the same group, same socioeconomic group? Okay.
Yes, same. I mean, we're dealing with the same primary families. Like we have a couple people that are coming in from different areas. We originally started on Mission High School campus. Mission high schools are all public, all recovery high school in here in Las Vegas. And last year there was about 80 students there. So we were primarily working with those families, and the high school was really involved. And because we were on campus, it was really easy. It was kind of a one-stop shop for everybody. Then through funding through the state, we were able to get an offsite facility so we could service the whole valley and not just Mission. But it kind of separated us a little bit from the families, and it made one more stop for them to have to, to one more thing to have to engage in. So we lost some of our parent participation, and then COVID came and it just literally like knocked everybody off. So, but that being said, we started the family group again, no participation. So we're doing two different things. We're kind of readjusting. One, we have the youth offenders court out here, which is a specialty court for youth. And their family facilitator is going to come in and help us start facilitating our groups to hopefully get some more participation, because it's like they know what they're doing, right? We're kind of not sure here. We're trying to figure out everything on the fly. So, and then the second thing is I don't know if anybody's heard of CRAFT, Community Reinforcement and Family Training. So we're going to be implementing that group as well. So we've partnered up with another recovery foundation out here to try to implement that group as well. And we've gotten some really good feedback with that via Zoom. So we have it every Monday from 3 to 4:30.
Are your attendees, when we did the low socioeconomic groups, wasn't me, there was a brilliant guy named John Gordon who figured out that the way these communities were organized was into apartment complexes. There were apartment complexes where there would be large groups, and so he went to the apartment complexes and talked to them about using their club rooms, because they were boarded up and shut down. And so we would go in and use the club rooms as a place that's where the meetings would happen. So it solved some of the transportation issues. And I know that not all of this will apply, but there's something I'm trying to get to. One of the things that we discovered in getting parents to come, it was so simple. We had free pizza at the meetings. We let everybody know, and next thing you know, we had parents crawling out our ears. And there was some expense to it, but actually we played off of the other thing I mentioned to you a second ago. In our nonprofit side of things, the family groups there helped with some of the financing on getting that kind of thing done. So I know that it's a different world right now. There are some things, I don't know if they've gone to, if you could do some socially distanced version, something. Serving food creates attendance, and then the relationships that build up around that regular thing happening, that becomes snowball, for the family groups. So just an idea from the past, something that worked, and it worked. Not only did it work, it way worked. I mean, we had hundreds. We had 1,800 active Medicaid clients at one time, all at one time. It was the largest Medicaid program in Texas at the time. Other comments, thoughts, ideas?
I wanted to make a comment that James had mentioned that a lot of his parents are very aversive to the God talk in the meetings or the spiritual aspect of what we're doing. And one thing that I know another group that leads their opening, after they do their preamble, they have a minute meditation, a silent meditation for them to use as they want to. But that serves a couple of purposes, and I've seen it really help. You know, it helps them get in touch with just being quiet for a minute and starting the meeting, you know, without all that talk in their head. I think it's great, but it also can lead into, you know, having a more open discussion about what does spirituality mean to you, because, you know, it's a very personal thing. So I like that. I've seen it do wonders to open up after a whole minute, like somebody time it and be watching the timer and have your eyes open so the kids aren't touching each other. You know, let them know they're safe and it's facilitated, but it works.
Yeah, the way we word it is, let's take a moment to silently reflect on why we are here tonight. And we found that works really well. There's no barriers to that, no objections to thinking about why we came to the meeting tonight.
Other thoughts? Organization on the actual, Hannah, do you feel like you got some of what you were hoping to get in the idea of how to organize them, you know, an idea? There's a lot of different things. One of the things that I always tell folks, if it ain't working, don't do that. Do things that work. Find things that work, you know, don't just keep doing the same old thing. Change, add, you know, move, keep moving, because this is a moving target all the time.
Yeah, I think it's been super helpful. And I think as you talked about it at the last meeting, everything is going to look different depending on how we answer as a program, like certain questions. And so a lot of this has been super helpful. And I wasn't sure how much structure other APGs had, and whether or not that was something that is just like me being like anal and wanting to have a structure to the meetings. But I'm glad to hear that other people do have a structure. And Hunter, I really appreciate all of the language suggestions that you've given in the past couple of meetings that I've been on with you. I wrote down live grenade, and I can't wait until I get a chance to use that term. But I also really like the way that you just phrased taking a moment to reflect on why they're here, and that not being a problematic way to phrase a moment for reflection. So I appreciate everyone's contributions. It definitely has been helpful.
Yeah, Hannah, the way our meeting started out, we were very free-flowing. There was no structure. We just rolled up. There was no preamble. And that really worked with 4 people.
Yeah.
But now we're averaging about 15 people a meeting, and it took one time for it to go totally off the rails. We had no control over the meeting. And then I came back next week with a preamble, a structure. You know, we started giving out, like, we have a chip system similar to like AA, and we have like the 30-day bracelets. And yeah, I mean, that we usually open with about 30 minutes of check-ins, like, how was your week? And then identify a challenge you see in your coming week to your recovery. And then sort of if I hear a recurring theme in the check-ins, I'll make that the topic, or I'll ask if they have something they want to discuss and make it their meeting. I heard somebody say, you know, as a facilitator, I'm not here to like guide the meeting. I'm just here to be the bumpers. It's your meeting. I just stop it from going in the gutters. That's what I like. Yeah.
I have a couple of comments here real quick. One, Michael Wilkerson asked, if you're running different groups, do you have a challenge with maintaining group cohesion? Which steps into a word I wanted to share with y'all. And this is, you might want to write this down, because it's kind of, there are important phrases. Enthusiastic recovery is an important phrase if you're going to create an effective APG. Enthusiastic recovery. That's something to get a tattoo, on that kind of thing. And if one of you do, please send me a picture because it will go into a slideshow. So enthusiastic recovery is one. The other one is organized chaos. Okay. When it gets too organized, our clients and some of us aren't real crazy about that feeling, that feeling of this feels like I'm going through prison or something like that. But it has, so the idea is to, it matches up with that enthusiastic recovery. The idea is to get it to where it's exciting and fun and enthusiastic, this is cool, I like this. To the point that it feels almost chaotic, except it's not. It is organized. There is stuff going on. In fact, there's organization to keep that feeling going. There's organization to keep it feeling chaotic, that kind of thing. So those two thematic words are very, very important in all of this. And again, if you're not feeling it, you need to add something or take something away or both. If you're not feeling that organized chaos, something needs to change, okay? Other questions? Michael, does that answer a little bit what you were asking? Because if you organize it right, it does keep cohesion, but you got to think about keeping that organized. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I guess what I was thinking about is, I always go to this group and they always go to that group. And then when someone new comes into what's become our group, do people give them sort of a side eye, like, why did you come to our group instead of your group? Does that make sense?
Sometimes, yeah, there is some that if you have
person, right? Like I have my chair and my spot every time when I go someplace. And if someone's in my chair, even if it's a coffee shop, I give them side eye, right? Like, so.
Somehow I can see that. I don't know why. I think I sat in your chair. Yeah, all of that happens, and it goes back to that steering committee thing. And when those kind of things start to occur, it's up to the person running the program and running that group, depending on how big your program is, to cite those things out and not just kill it, take advantage of it. There are ways, the side eye, that can become a goofy thing that we talk about. There's a lot of different, just depending on who you are and how you operate. And this gets back to talent-based hiring. You hire people who can read folks and they know how to flesh up with people, and those kind of things. That's one talent. The other talent is taking them in a positive, loving, giving direction, as a group. And different people have different talents. Nobody does everything. So you find different people that do different things at a time. But what you're asking about, it's one of the reasons why you have steering committee and he sends me the thing at the end, Rip sends me the deal at the end of the meeting, the update on how the meeting went, who was there. And the update he sent me, he told me who was there, who talked about what, all of that. And then I start going, okay, what moves I've already made a couple of texts based on that. Where one of them was to that young man who were trying to step forward into some sort of leadership and giving back in something. It doesn't have to be us. We're just available. But I've already sent a text, some things around that. Like I didn't show up that was supposed to show up, and I know some situations that are going on. I already sent a text with him. But all of this adds up to this organization enthusiasm, but it needs to feel like chaos to a degree, that fun little crazy junk. Okay. Other ideas, thoughts, questions?
I had one more thing to say to that, because I think you asked that question when we were talking about splitting up larger groups. I've experienced that. We had a group of I think 32. When we would split them up, just the parent coordinator decides ahead of time with the staff, who's the strong parents, who can be in that room, who would benefit from being with that group of parents to help lead them in their topics, so that you don't get all your seasoned parents in one room and all new parents in another. That's important. And then you come back at the end and you all close together, you know. And the topics don't have to be the same in every room.
You don't want them to be, because different people are going through different things. And this is parents and young people. And when you get to that size, you can actually, through your steering committee, or you yourself, say, hey man, make sure you go to the meeting on, you know, letting go. Because you know what's going on with that client because of the conversation and communication that's going on nonstop. Or you can have a steering committee member say, man, come on, go with me over to this meeting on sticking with winners. You know, so doing all of that is a nonstop thing. Okay. All right, we're at the end of the day again. I love you guys. Best time of my week. A lot better than listening to goopy senators and junk. So y'all pray for me this afternoon that I can actually say the right names for the bills that I'm talking about and stuff, because it all becomes bleh in my head. I guess you can imagine. You guys are awesome. Any last minute stuff?
Thanks for the recipe.
Yeah, enjoy your bologna Eggo.
No.
It's very nice to meet all of you.
Y'all
Thanks.
say this after me. I'm sorry, Lindsay. This is really important that you do this.
On that
Say this after me. It's the goob loony.
Baloney.
The
Goob.
goob. There you go. There you go. That's it.
Not even
Goob
right,
loony.
John.
You what?
It's so wrong.
You what?
It's so wrong.
It's so right. So
No.
right. I love you guys. Y'all have a good day.
Have a good day.
So glad to have you here, kiddo.